Yes, so we are good. Please, I'm very sorry for the disruption. Please, yes, we are good to go right now. So we can start.
Okay, thank you very much. So before the technical glitch, talking gave a very brilliant definition of communication. And I was saying that it pointed to certain things that are of interest to me. You know, it talked about information, it talked about clarity. Can you mute every other person? I'm distracted at the moment, please. Yeah, so as I was saying, so it touched on important things that I would also like to highlight. You know, talked about clarity, talked about information, talked about interpersonal and interpersonal communication, and of course, talked about the media. So for you to say you want to communicate, it means that you have something to talk to people about. So you can classify that something as information. So what do you want to share with people, right? And depending on the audience, I know that you also mentioned audience. So depending on the audience, you need to sort of design your information based on the audience. So are you speaking to students, for example? Are you speaking to professionals? Are you speaking to doctors? Are you speaking to lawyers? So if you're speaking to a particular field, you know that your language has to reflect that field, right? So before you can successfully say, I have communicated. You know, it touched on clarity. You cannot be speaking to market women, for example, and you're using, you know, grandiloquent words, or what we would say big English. You're not communicating that way because nobody understands you. If the language spoken in the market is Pidgin English, you have to speak Pidgin English. If it is Yoruba, you have to speak Yoruba. If it is Igbo or Hausa, you need to speak. You need to communicate in the way that the people want to be communicated to, right? And beyond what you say when you communicate, it is also how you say it. If you're communicating to children, say maybe those in kindergarten or crèche, you cannot, you cannot just speak to these kids because that is not how they want to be communicated to. If you're speaking to kids, they want you to sing, they want to hear rhymes, and, they want you to dance possibly because that is how they learn. So you need to put a lot of things into consideration before you can successfully say, I have communicated. So if you come back to what I have here in my presentation slide, communication is a transfer of information from one person or entity to the other. You cannot say you have communicated if you have not transferred information. Is it a communication between you and somebody? It could even be within yourself, right? But there has to be a transfer of information. And I add entity there because it's not every time that you're talking to somebody, or it's not every time that communication is happening between two or more people. Animals also communicate, right? So, and I have that communication could be verbal, just like what I'm doing now. I am talking to you. When it involves speeches, it's verbal communication. It could be non-verbal, right? You could say, for example, you could communicate with touch. So communicating with touch is known as haptic communication. There are certain ways that certain people will touch you, and you will know that they are telling you something. For the Yorubas here, right? When, for example, I'm Yoruba, and I recall that when I was much younger, my dad or my mom did not say some things before I understand what they are saying. Sometimes the way they touch you, the way they pat you, you know that they're telling you, leave that space now. Right. So I don't know if it's the same, with other cultures, but I can tell you that, certain cultures have their peculiarities. And sometimes merely touching somebody is a way of communicating a message to that person. So communication via touch is known as haptic. There is olfactic. So olfactic is communicating with smell. There are some people, they do not wear another brand of perfume. Sometimes it is because they love it so much. Other times it is because they want people to associate them with that particular brand of perfume. So the moment this person passes and you smell it, you can tell that, oh, that is Tosin person, that is Tekik person, right? You can always tell because of the way they smell. And other times, you would hug somebody, and after leaving that person, maybe for days, you can also even tell that, I'm smelling this person. So sometimes you can be very deliberate with the smell that you want people to perceive, because it is also a way of communicating. And again, communicating by smell is olfactic. There is also proxemic. So proxemic is communication via distance. So sometimes if you see two people together and you can see, that there is close proximity, you can tell that, oh, these people are either lovers or they're siblings, or maybe there is a romantic relationship going on between them. Sometimes it may not be a romantic relationship, it could be a platonic relationship. So, for example, the way you would stand with your pastor. But even at that, somebody can easily tell that this is a pastor congregation member relationship and not a romantic relationship, because there is always something about the distance that is different. So if you're communicating via distance, you can call that proxemic. So we also have highlight these ones for you. So now we can talk about communication skills. Communication skills allow you decode messages, speak or write with clarity, and that's why I really like that whole simple pointed out clarity and get feedback. So, we've talked about communication being the transfer of information. Now we're looking at the skills, information effectively. You cannot speak to an audience skill, right? Score a very good mark if you have not written well. So that means that you need to work on your writing skill, because it would enhance the way you communicate via writing. That is also part of the communication skill that we will be looking at today. So basically, when you have certain communication skills, it would help you decode messages. What is this person trying to say? Right? Oh, you've been trying to engage this person, they are not speaking to you, they are just they're very cold, right? Is this person trying to tell me that they are not happy? Has something happened to this person that is making them very withdrawn? It takes certain communication skills for you to be able to decode these things. Or other times, somebody might be winking at you. The person winking at you, what exactly is this person trying to say? But if you do not have, certain communication skills, again, you would not be able to decode these things. And then communication skills will help you get feedback. You cannot say you have communicated when there is no feedback, because how are you sure that a person or the entity you have communicated to actually got your message? So if they are not getting your message, if they're not getting the information you're passing across to them, you have not communicated. And you can only learn these things when you have certain communication skills. So again, it could also be that you're a business owner, right? And you've put out certain content on social media. Okay, come on, buy. I sell the best bags in Nigeria, or I sell the best courses, in public speaking, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, nobody's engaging your posts, nobody's buying your products. You have not communicated. So you need to begin to ask yourself, how can I improve on my communication skills? And especially, how can I leverage the internet? In this case, how can I leverage social media to work on my skills, to own my communication skills, and ensure that, I'm either making impact, or I'm making sales, or I'm generally becoming a better person. Next slide, please. Great. So the next slide says, what are communication skills? We have a plethora of them, but I have decided to highlight these ones because, my understanding is I'm speaking to students, or, entry level or mid-level professionals. And these are skills that would really help you scale up. It would help you advance in your career. And if you're a student, it would also help your outcome, either after writing an examination, or maybe you're going for a public speaking contest or an essay competition, or whatever the case might be. But these skills are very important. And if you learn them, if you master them, it will go a long way to helping you becoming a better person. So the first skill that I have here is speaking. I cannot overemphasize this. Some people will say, I'm so shy, I don't know how to do. No, you see, sometimes the difference between you and that person you see as an expert is because they're able to articulate their thoughts. Yes, you know it, but we are not seers. The people you're talking to, they're not prophets, they're not angels. So they don't know what is going on in your mind until you talk about these things. So you need to speak. How do you feel? How are you currently feeling? Are you hungry? Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you depressed? Whatever the case might be, you need help, right? But people can only help you when they have an understanding of what is happening to you. And one of the ways you can do this is by speaking. So this is a very critical communication skill that I cannot overemphasize, right? If you're a student, for example, I know that, there are times that you would need to do presentation. And, I remember that when I was a student, I needed to do, a lot of presentations. And in fact, I was a debater for my school when I was an undergraduate. And it was a beautiful experience. There was a particular course that a lecturer wanted us to make a presentation. And then my classmates were like, oh, Rafiat, you're going to do this for us because we know that you're very articulate, you're very bold, you're confident. I said, no, you know what, guys? I'm not going to be the only person speaking. For me, it's not just about me winning or showcasing my skill. We have to win together. I'm going to help you. We're going to practice together. But, I want everybody to at least say something. Because for me, it's not just about scoring a high mark, it's also an opportunity for you to build yourself. People reward speakers. Yeah, they reward writers and, people who can do other things as well. But imagine you knowing something about everything and being able to communicate in a way that people can follow your thought process. It's beautiful. Before you know it, they're inviting you to conferences, to seminars, to workshops. Who come talk to us. We know that you can speak in a way that people would understand. When you talk about the Chimamandas of this world, the Michelle Obama, the Obama of this world, what comes to mind? You say, oh, these people are great orators. They are not just writers. They can articulate their thoughts. They can speak to the world, regardless of your nationality. They would speak in a clear manner that you will understand. So speaking is a very important communication skill that you need to learn and build on as an individual who wants to grow, not just in the professional world, but even personally. Because see, there are times that I talk to myself, not because not because, I'm jobless, or, I have some mental, no, it's not because of that. I talk to myself sometimes, as a way of practicing, other times as a way of self-affirming what I believe I already have. Right. So if you believe in affirmations, for example, oh, Rafiat, you're beautiful, you're courageous, you've got this, right? So speaking is very important. I cannot overemphasize this. We go to the next one, which is writing. You see, it's not enough for you to say an excellent speaker, right? Before you even speak, you need to write. You need to write because you need to practice what you want to speak to people about. What are you writing? What does your writing skill, what does it look like at the moment? Do you know how to put, words together? Is your grammar very excellent? If not very excellent, is it average or is it very bad? Right? So if you do not put all of those things into consideration, you will be lagging behind. And when people need individuals who can represent them, in whatever capacity, you may not come to mind. One of the reasons that you admire some of the people you admire on the internet today is because they're writers. And trust me, you don't have to be a Chimamanda before you write. As a matter of fact, all of these things require regular practice. You see, the more you practice, the more you become a master at that thing. So you need to write. In my current role as a specialist, right, as an awareness raising campaign specialist, and you can say I'm a communications officer, I'm constantly writing because I want to put something, I want to put a post on social media. In fact, what you think is as little as a tweet. Sometimes for you to put together a tweet, especially if you're doing it, in a capacity as mine, you're doing it for a brand and not a small brand, you need to be very cautious of everything. Every single word matters because you don't want something that will cause, that will wreak a havoc. Because really, we're talking about the United Nations here. So you need to be extra careful. And you don't want to put something out and people are questioning your grammar. Why are you saying she have come? She have come. I'm excited, and then you're writing AM instead of I, then AM, or if you want to shorten it, you have hi, then you have what's it called now? You have the comma, not the comma now. You have the quotation mark, and then you have M, just to shorten it. You're not doing all of those things. People are checking. And, sometimes when you read, a way to practice what you have read is to put out information. And sometimes you may not be able to do that, by speaking, because speaking is a lot of work. It's a lot of work, especially when you're doing a video content. You need to ensure that you're pronouncing words the right way, you're saying what you intend to say. Sometimes you do it like maybe 10 times before you eventually get the perfect one. And they're not, you may not even get the perfect one, but you may eventually settle for one. But writing saves you the stress of, sitting in front of a camera, trying to look good, trying to gesticulate the right way it is seen. So writing is also very important. It is a communication skill that you need to learn to master. Because when you write well, you're able to You're able to make people purge emotions. You're able to elicit certain responses from people. If you're familiar with Tunde Onokoya, the founder of Chess and Slum, especially on Twitter, you would have an understanding of what I mean when I say you need to work on your writing skill. Tunde is an impact maker, is a change maker. Tunde would go to communities. They would go to areas, rural areas, places that you would not even imagine that someone can go to. It will take the gospel of chess to those places and it would train them. And at the end of the day, it would write a very powerful thread that would make you think about your life and how privileged you are for doing some of the things you're currently doing. Because while you're thinking that, oh my goodness, I had rice this morning, I'm going to have maybe swallow this afternoon, and maybe later, for dinner, I'm going to have noodles. There are some children under the bridge who don't even know what they would have for that day. There are some children under the bridge in very vulnerable areas, right? Who have to depend on drugs to live. They have to depend on doing very illegal things, very, unconventional things just to make ends meet for that day. So Tunde would write in such a powerful way that would make you see humanity differently. Tunde is not doing a video. Tunde is not speaking to us. But the way he has chosen his words, he has strung the words together in such a way that, we have no choice but to say what is happening to these kids is abnormal. We need to do something about it. Because if we do not do something about helping these kids, that would end up becoming security threats. And at the end of the day, we would all pay for it. This is what the pen can do for you. It's powerful. I mean, I don't want to talk about the likes of Chimamanda, because really you would say, oh, Chimamanda is an accomplished person, not a renowned writer, blah, blah, blah. Tunde is also very accomplished, right? But maybe not on the scale as perhaps Chimamanda, and that's even relative. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you write well, you can create a change. And it doesn't have to be a social change alone. If you write well, you can make sales, huge sales. Right? I know I follow, a number of persons on Instagram, for example, and I see the way they talk about their products, maybe their digital products. You would see it, and before you know it, you would just go to they will tell you, visit the link in my bio to get started. You wouldn't know when you go to the link to even check them out. And before you know it, you've been complaining, oh my God, I don't have money. Well, you would have money for this person because they have marketed themselves in such a way that is compelling to you. So you just want to buy from them. That is for writing. There is also active listening. I recently saw John Wick 4, and one of the actors said something really profound, and I noted it. That's me when I watch movies. I'm not just interested in the action, right? I'm also interested in the words and the pronunciations, because they help me get better. And the person says that fools speak, coward remain silent, why a wise man listens. I know that this is a metaphor, right? Because I know that I've talked about speaking, I've talked about writing as important communication skills that you should possess. So now I am quoting someone from John Wick who said, fools speak, cowards remain silent, and the wise man listens. So please know that this is a figurative expression. So you cannot give it a meaning on the surface level. It's deeper than that. But the point I'm trying to make is one communication skill that you need to also improve on, or you need to learn, is listening. It's very important. Some of us are very quick to speak. It's not going to help you, because sometimes it helps that you listen to the perspective of people. If you listen more and speak less, it would make you less judgmental, right? It would help you to empathize. Now I'm going to the next point, but I think, they're interwoven. So it would help you to see yourself in the person's situation. You would help you see yourself in the person's shoes, right? And this also happens in the way we communicate every day. Let's take our WhatsApp conversation as an example. Some of us will send messages to certain people. They will not respond immediately, right? Maybe you're expecting their response and they've not gotten back to you. And the next time you're sending them a message, you're saying, now, wow. And you've been updating your status. How could you not respond to my messages? You're so proud. You're this, you're that. You're not empathizing with that person. You're not, because the thing is, sometimes people update their status as, a coping mechanism. Something is happening to them. Sometimes they are busy. They're extremely swamped with work or some other things. But they needed maybe say 5 minutes break. And what came to mind for them is to update their status because it helps them calm their nerves. But you don't know these things except they tell you. So you cannot be overtly judgmental. You cannot just start by saying, how could you do, well, why? Well, except this person is your lover or your very good friend, because there's a way there's a level of relationship that you have with someone and you can freely communicate. So if it's your lover, you don't need to be very formal about it, right? But that doesn't also mean that you should not empathize with this person. Right? So you need to learn to listen. You need to learn to empathize, because when you combine these two together, it makes you a better person. It makes your perspective, it makes it more profound, right? And it makes people respect you more and more, and they can trust you more with whatever it is happening to them. So it's not just, okay, I understand. No, you don't understand me. Allow me to talk. Right? So somebody is saying something to you. You don't have to, jump into the conversation. You don't need to interrupt their thought process. Right? There are certain things you can do, you can say to show that you're indeed listening to them. Because sometimes, especially with, social media, with the internet, people pretend to be listening when they are actually not listening. So you need to reassure the person that is speaking that you're actually listening to them. And some of the things you can say is, I'm with you. Please go ahead. Please proceed. Would you like to tell me more? I'm very happy to listen to you. If you're very comfortable to go ahead, please, by all means, I'm with you. These are things that you can say, and the person will feel very excited. They'll feel very elated that at least there is somebody listening to them. So, active listening and empathizing, putting yourself in that person's shoes is also very important. It would help you grow as an individual, and it would help you grow as a professional. Remember what I told you earlier about, the course that I did when I was an undergraduate, and then my classmates wanted me to do the presentation because they felt, Rafiat can do this, blah, blah, blah. I said, no. I wanted them to grow. However, I wasn't going to impose my ideas or my opinions on them. You know what I said to them? I said, you know what, guys? I know that you're shy. I know that, you feel like you cannot do this, but I know that you can do it. If I can do it, you can also do it. We will work on this together, right? So we divided the sessions, right? And then we said, this person is going to take paragraph one. I will take the conclusion, or I will take the introduction. You will do this, and this is how you do it. Just read this way and move around very briefly. And at the end of the day, we did it. Everybody was happy. So sometimes, in a way to empathize with people, we tend to be supercilious. We want to show our superiority. Empathizing with somebody or listening to them is not an avenue for you to belittle them. It's not an avenue for you to make them feel small. Empathizing and listening to people is an opportunity for you to make them feel seen and heard. Now I will go to SMS and email marketing. This is another, communication skill that you also want to learn. Right now, if you're a student, I wouldn't say you need to learn it. It's not super important to you. But if you're a professional, especially if you're a marketer or a communications practitioner, it helps that you learn skills along this line, because at some point you want to send emails to colleagues. Maybe you want to also do some email marketing. So email marketing basically is using email, right, as a means of communication to sell an idea. And when I say sell an idea, I don't necessarily mean a business. It could be that you want to drive traffic to your website. So if you don't write it in a very catchy manner, people will not click. They will not even open it, because ordinarily, people get a lot of email messages, in a day. So you want yours to stand out. And a way that these can stand out is by working on your communication skill. And then the last but not the least that I have here is public speaking. Oh my goodness. Some people would rather tell the earth to open its mouth and swallow them than face an audience. If you're that person listening to me at the moment, I am telling you that you're doing yourself a lot of disservice. You're denying yourselves opportunities just by being shy. Nobody, I repeat, nobody is born a public speaker. This is a learnable skill. Learn it. The first time that I faced an audience to speak, I was in SS1, if I'm not mistaken. So I was attending this tutorial. It was put together by an NGO, Volunteer Corps. And I remember that. So, Volunteer Corps put together that weekly tutorial. So I attended that tutorial from SS1 to SS3. And I'm sorry for those who are not Nigerians. So SS1 is, so I'm talking about the senior secondary school. So for secondary school education in Nigeria, you have the junior secondary school and you have the senior secondary school. So so for the senior secondary school, you would have 3 years, and then for the junior, you also have 3 years. So I was in SS1, and then this organization said, oh, they have done a survey, and based on the survey and the reports available to them, they have come to realize that a lot of people fail English and mathematics when they sit for their final exams, and which was true, and I think to an extent it is still true. So I started attending this tutorial, but what I really loved about that tutorial was that it didn't just teach us English and mathematics. We also did about life. So life was an acronym that meant leadership, information, finance, and ethics. So every Saturday, we would do English mathematics, and extracurricular activities. So for the extracurricular activities, they talked about a number of things, including leadership, information, finance, and ethics. And I could remember that on this particular day, I decided, or maybe, yes, I think it was my decision. I decided to represent my team, and I was to face an audience. While I was speaking, I could not really tell the difference between lost and lose. So for context, I was trying to say so many lives were lost. That's supposed to be in the past tense. But I ended up not sure. I confused myself. Maybe it wasn't a thing of I confused myself. Maybe it was largely because I was facing an audience. So I didn't know if I was to say many lives were lost or many lives were lost. I remember that my fellow students in the audience were the ones who corrected me and told me lost. So I said many lives were lost. After that particular day, I was embarrassed. I felt humiliated, like, goodness, what just happened to me? You mean I couldn't tell the difference between lose and lost? That was an experience that could have made anybody cower. It could have made anybody vow to say they are never going to do public speaking again. They are never going to face an audience again. But you know what I said to myself? That Rafiat, the fact that you failed at that does not make you a failure. You only failed at doing that particular thing. You are not a failure. You know what? You're going to pack up yourself. You're going to keep representing your group as many times as possible. And you're going to become a better person. You're going to become a better public speaker. And ladies and gentlemen, that was what I did. I started volunteering to represent them. I still made a number of errors. I goofed. I could recall that there was this particular day I was trying to replicate a bank PHP advert. So there was this bank in Nigeria, then Bank PHP. I really loved their adverts. And when I love something like that, I tend to memorize it. And I recall, in fact, I still remember some lines from the advert, because they were talking about, some days cars will run on water. Right. And then somebody came to talk to, two actors that were seated, and the person was talking about impossible. And, another person came, and then the person said, I'm sorry. So they were looking for impossible in the dictionary. They would, that thing. And the person came and said, I'm sorry, you would not find impossible there, sir. Because in Bank PHP, nothing is impossible for us to do. So there was a particular day I was, trying to replicate the same thing along the lines I goofed. So that is to tell you that when you're doing public speaking, or when you decide to start learning public speaking, you're going to make a number of errors. You're going to goof. People are going to laugh with you or at you at some point, but you cannot let that dampen your spirits. I saw this particular quote on Facebook a long time ago, and I've held on to it since that time, that if you always listen to their opposition, you will lose your position. So sometimes if you're trying to learn all of these skills, even speaking, when I tell people that I went to a public secondary school, some people don't believe me because they think I speak well, I articulate words correctly. I mean, as much as possible. But this did not start in a day. When I was in secondary school, in my junior secondary school, my English teacher, I could count the number of times that she came to class to teach us. In my senior secondary school, right, my English teacher specifically told us that she wasn't good at teaching oral English because you can only speak well when you pronounce words the right way. And a way to pronounce words the right way, to sound right, is by deliberately learning oral English. The woman told us, I can't teach oral English the right way. I don't know it. So for my senior secondary school, for the most part, we did summary and comprehension passages. If you're familiar with the structure of the English language, you would know that you've not even, it's just a tip of the iceberg, because there is summary, there is comprehension, there is grammar, there is phonology, etc. Right? So, but when I wanted to write the GCE examination, I'm talking about the West Africa Senior Secondary School examination, WASCE, I knew that I needed to do something in English. And I knew that what my teacher in school was teaching me would not be sufficient for me to pass. So I started attending a tutorial. And luckily for me, I met a teacher, an excellent person is Dr. Gab, used to be Mr. Ganil then. He's now a doctor, now a lecturer at the Lagos State University. And, he started teaching me how to, and it wasn't just me, he was teaching all of us. And I loved the way he taught us. It was very disciplined, very dedicated, and he ensured that everybody in the class practiced. See, when Dr. Ganil was teaching us, or Mr. Ganil then, you would not say duster in his class. He would send you out. You would say duster. Duster, you pronounce words the right way. So, I started doing that, and I started practicing with my friend. Her name is Grace. And doing it, watching, some newscasters, trying to imitate them, doing all of those things, it helped me become a better public speaker. When I was an undergraduate, I represented my school in various debate competitions. In fact, I became quite popular for that, because whenever there was a competition, I would say, oh, go and meet Rafiat, talk to Rafiat. And people started inviting me to coach them, to mentor them, and, even up till date. So what am I saying? It seems as though I have a bias of public speaking. That is because I teach public speaking ordinarily, but really all of these communication skills are very, very important. You need to learn them. Like I said before, if you want to become better, either as a student, as a business owner, as a professional, or as an executive, or in whatever capacity, these communication skills will help you, cascade your progress as a person. So next slide, please. All right, so how do you leverage the internet to publish your communication skills? And recall that I mentioned that, when we talk about the internet, we're also talking about social media in this case, because we're going to be using them interchangeably. So the first thing that I have four things that I believe you can do to begin to leverage your internet skills. There is learn, you need to share, you need to engage, and you need to connect. So for learning, I've made reference to doing online trainings, following thought leaders and experts. You need to check platforms like maybe Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, Duolingo, Grammarly, etc. But there are other ways that you can also learn as an individual. So for example, if you want to learn how to speak right, or how to, become a better public speaker, you need to watch out for very excellent public speakers, people that you admire a lot. Begin to listen to them and begin to practice. It is important. You cannot overemphasize that. You need to learn. Again, let me use public speaking as an example, right? One of the ways that I learn, when it comes to public speaking, is by watching newscasters. I know that I've talked about this before, but I would stress it again. I watch newscasters, I watch, public speakers, and it helps me a lot. And I also read, because if you want to be a better writer, you need to be a better reader. Readers are leaders. I know this is cliche, but that is the truth. You will write horribly if you don't read great writers. You need to read, you need to learn, you need to see their styles. In fact, at some points, it would look as though you're imitating them, but it's fine. Sometimes people would say that you're copying somebody, you're doing it. It's okay. It's great for you to copy, because sometimes, in fact, not even sometimes, for the most part, imitation, when mastered, becomes a differentiation. I'll say that again. Imitation, when mastered, becomes a differentiation. If you want to learn how to speak well, you need to begin to watch people who speak well, and you need to begin to practice to speak like the way that person speaks. But over time, you would find your own voice. And every time you speak, people know that that is that person talking. Those who are familiar with me, they know that that is Rafiat speaking. And how did I learn? How did I become this? I did not become this overnight. I was learning. I was watching. I used to watch TVC a lot. So for those who are not Nigerians here, TVC is one of the leading, TV stations in Nigeria. And they have a number of broadcasters. I used to watch broadcasters like, Esther Omopariola, Bukola Samuel Wemimo. I used to imitate them. And you know what I would do? I would come stand in front of the mirror. I would bring out, maybe a newspaper or one of my textbooks, and I would try to read the way they are reading the news. I could do a sample for you now. You would hear, "Hello and welcome. This is CVC News Hour at 6. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo, the headlines." And they would start reading. Nobody taught me this. I used to be a volunteer radio presenter when I was an undergraduate. The very first time I went on air, I had no formal training. It was surreal. Even me, I was feeling, how did I do this? And I got really great commendations after I finished that particular session. You know how? You know what happened? I have been practicing. When I went for the night, because for those who are not Nigerians here, there is this mandatory service that you go for after you graduate from the university. It is known as the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC. When I went, you would go for, a 3-week orientation program, and then you will be posted to maybe a school or an organization for you to serve for 1 year. So during the 3 weeks program, I was a presenter, of course, in camp, and, they wanted me to read the news. It was the first time ever that I was reading the news. But because I had been imitating certain broadcasters, it gave me the confidence that I needed to read the news. And you know what? After I read the news, a man came to our mini radio station. It was the microcosm, right? And the man asked, "Who read the news?" Apparently, they called this man Americana because I think he schooled abroad or maybe he lived there and he had this, foreign accent. The man came to who read the news. They pointed at me and he gave me a handshake. He said, "I haven't heard such a voice. I haven't heard, such elegance, so to speak, or such, I don't know, the word is not coming to my head right now, but primarily the man was saying that he hasn't heard such reading for some time now." And before I knew what was happening, I became very popular in camp. Everybody wanted to be my friend and all of that. So point is, I started imitating somebody. In fact, not one person, people. before I then found my voice, and it has become a differentiation for me. So you need to learn. Do you want to empathize better with people? You need to learn. How do you learn? Go on social media. Follow thought leaders, follow experts. You will read from them. You can go on YouTube, watch videos. People would tell you, they would explain to you how to be a better active listener. You would read, lived experiences of people. And, when you see all of these things, it broadens your horizon and it deepens your perspectives about issues. So if you want to leverage the internet or social media to polish your communication skills, you need to learn. You cannot shy away from it. And when I say learn, I'm not just talking about, for those who are students here, I'm not just talking about what your lecturer taught you in class. That's great. It would help you pass the examination. But what about, conversations with friends, with people who are not your classmates? They're discussing politics, for example, and you're just looking. You see, sometimes people are shy because they do not have anything to say. They do not have anything substantial to say. If you're loaded, right? If you believe that you've got a wealth of experience and of knowledge that people can benefit from, if you think that you've got something valuable inside of you that you can, share to the world, that alone is a driving force for you to speak. It is a driving force for you to write. So you need to learn. It's very important. Identify the platforms, identify the people, and identify the trainings that you need to do, either with someone or even with yourself for you to polish your communication skills. So another point that I have there is share. Don't just consume, produce. It's important. Don't just consume. Don't say, I'm learning how to speak, and you're not actually speaking. People ask me sometimes, how do I learn how to speak? You learn how to speak by actually speaking. You learn how to write by writing. Because if today you wrote something and you got maybe 10 likes, tomorrow you would write and you would get 20 likes. You know what? You're becoming better. You need to learn to choose progress over perfection. Nobody is perfect. You will never be perfect. It is not a curse. But choose progress. Say, I will speak today, even if I'm not pronouncing the words correctly. I would speak regardless. And after this particular session or after this video, I would learn how to pronounce the words the right way so that tomorrow, when I'm doing another video, I am saying it the right way and people will listen to me. They would want to watch me because I'm exciting, because I'm sharing valuable information, because I am different and I'm unique. So you need to share. And, you want to be a thought leader as well, right? You want people to make reference to you. You want people to patronize your business. You want to be a highly sought after professional. People need to know you for something, right? What is that thing that you're very passionate about? And how do you think articulating those things or expressing those things will better position you for opportunities? So share. It is important. When you learn, you also share. So the next that I have is engage. And before I even go to engage, let me go back to share. I gave an example of Tunde Onokoya earlier. Tunde is doing incredible work, right? And Tunde needs as much support as possible. He cannot do it alone because he's a social entrepreneur, right? He's doing social impact. He's not necessarily making money, but Tunde needs people to see what he's doing. He needs people to connect to what he's doing. He needs them to share and, it needs them to purge their emotions and see that it is one humanity. And you cannot say I am fine. Just because you cannot say because you're fine. Yes, everything is, great, fine and dandy because you're doing well. You're able to feed, you're able to clothe yourself, you're able to go on vacation, eat and see. No, that you're living large doesn't mean the world is okay. There are so many things that are not okay with the world. And, there are so many developmental issues, and there are individuals who have made it their life's mission to prefer solutions to making the world a better place. So you don't necessarily have to be those individuals, but you can also contribute your quota. It could be maybe by donating money. It could be by donating your time. It could be by, donating your expertise. It could be anything at all. So Tunde needs people like you to see the humanity in you and in every other person. And how is he able to do that? He's sharing. Tunde would visit this bridge today. He would share. Tunde would let you know how chess is transforming the lives of, underprivileged persons in vulnerable communities. You will see it and you'll be like, oh my goodness, this is amazing work. How can I support you? And Tunde will say, you know what? This young child needs to go to school. Please donate. And you're able to donate. If Tunde did not share about these things, if Tunde did not work on his communication skill, particularly his writing skill, how would Tunde be able to communicate in such a way that, makes you feel very sorry for these kids? So I'll now come to engage. It is important that you build human connection, right? You're not a robot, please. So don't just go on social media and drop things and that's all. No. Remember that communication is also about feedback. So it's not a one-way traffic thing. It's both sides. If you're sharing, if you're learning and sharing, and somebody is providing feedback, it helps that you acknowledge the feedback. So build real human connection. It's very critical. Right? So somebody drops a message on your post on social media. When you can, please say something nice to that person. And it doesn't have to do with your posts, right? It could be someone else's post. Engage with their post. It would help you build your communication skills because it would help you write better. It would help you empathize better. I could recall that, a page on Instagram, Diary of a Nigeria Girl, she dropped something on our page, and I dropped a comment to say, oh, do you know that what you call toast bread is not toast bread? It's actually toast. There's no need to add bread to it. It's just toast. I added that. And over 30 people followed me because of that particular comment on Instagram. Over 30 people followed me because of that. So when I say engage, it's not dependent on your post alone. It's also about what the other person is doing. And what this helps you to do, it helps you build human connection. So beyond social media, you can feel that love. You can feel that humanity, so to speak. And if you're selling a product, it helps to build trust because people believe you. There is this amazing lady that I follow on Instagram. She's Diary of a Kitchen Lover. Her name is Tolani. Tolani calls her followers besties. Hi besties, how are you today? Today I'm going to be making jollof rice. I know you will love it, blah, blah, blah. And people see Tolani outside Instagram and they love her. It's as if they're talking to a friend. And when Tolani influences, because she's an influencer, so when she influences a product or service, people patronize it because they feel like, oh, my friend is telling me to buy something. I know that my friend will not tell me to buy this because she wants to make money from it. She will tell me to buy this because she's convinced that it would make my life easier. So that is the power of engagement. And you know, one of the ways Tolani does this is when you drop a comment on Tolani's on Tolani's post, Tolani will respond to you. So you feel like, oh my goodness, an influencer is engaging my post. She's my actual bestie. She's my friend. She's this and that. So that is it. You need to also do that. It helps you build your communication skills because you know how to respond to people better. You know how to write better. You know how to be less judgmental. And you know how to better put yourself in other people's conditions or shoes. So the last but not the least that I have is connect, make friends, and have fun. Life is not that serious. It's never that deep, right? So please have fun while you're doing this. Make real connections, have friends, build a community possibly, so that when you see each other outside social media, you can say, oh my goodness, I follow you on Instagram. I love the amazing content that you put out. And I really would love to know you beyond this. Because the truth is, you don't know who is who. You don't know who's going to help you. You don't know who's going to connect you to that person who will make your life 3 times better or easier. So you need to ensure that you're doing all of these things to polish your communication skills, just so you can live a better life. So on a final note, you're too valuable to be invisible. Please don't say I'm shy. Why shall I shy? Why shall you shy? The world is leaving you behind. Remember that there's so much competition out there. So you need to be seen and heard. I know there are some people who don't like it. It's okay. But it doesn't mean that you should be totally invisible, right? If you don't want to speak, you don't want to be in front of the camera, you can be a professor, you can write. At the recently concluded elections in Nigeria, I was in one of the situation rooms and I met a professor. He was celebrating his birthday, and the man said to us, oh, you guys really, you caught me off guard because I don't like celebrations, right? I just like to be in my corner. I don't want to be seen. In fact, sometimes I don't want to be heard. But this man is a professor. And if you talk about policing in Nigeria and by extension in Africa, you will make reference to this man because he has put together a body of literature that cannot, be pushed down the drain. He has done an incredible work in that field. So when I say be seen, be heard, I mean, it's not just about wanting to be popular or wanting to be famous. Not everybody wants that. It's okay. But you can also do something. You can leave your mark, in the sand of time. You can write, be a writer, like the professor. And when people invite you, say, oh, positions like that, when there are, key steering committees to be organized, they will call you because of the trust that you would give them, very good advice and what have you. So please and please, you're too valuable to be invisible. Get polished, get noticed, create impact, make money, and live only. At this point, I'd like to say thank you for listening, and I will stop here. Happy to take your questions and comments, if at all. Over.
That was very awesome, an awesome session. I know everyone on the call right now will agree with me. If Alvekik says, what a valuable session. I mean, we were all in it, really in it. So please, guys, if you have any questions for our speaker, any comments, any feedback, now is the time to say it, because after this, we are not going to be long on the call. Yes. So, yes, the recording and the slides will be made available very soon. But right now, if you have any question, please, our speaker is still on the call. Please say it right now so she can take the questions and hold. Hey, you're welcome. And yes, okay, Rekik is raising her hand. So please go ahead, Rekik. What do you want to say? Okay, yes. If you have any question,
Sure.
please now. Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for the valuable session again. I wanted to ask her if we can follow her LinkedIn account, or if she has a YouTube channel that we can subscribe, or if she has a WhatsApp uh, group, another group that we can join, or a Telegram channel, because it was a really valuable session. And thank you again.
Okay, Rekik, thank you for that. Yes, I'll share our social media profiles with everyone on the WhatsApp group. So after each session, we share the speaker's contact so that you can reach them directly if you want. So definitely I'll share your Fiat's own on the WhatsApp group, and then you can reach her. Okay, so yes, uh Lagos. Okay, yes, please go ahead. Uh
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Miss Rafiat, for that valuable session. So I was going to type my question, but then I remembered you said the only way to speak is to speak. Yeah, so how do you fight off the feeling of attachment to your engagement to your on your post on social media, especially when they are low? Say the number of likes are not as many as you wished or as many as you hoped, and you're feeling a little bit down. How do you deal with that?
Thank you so much, Zainab. Zainab is trying to be modest. She's my baby. So thank you for that. Thank you for that question. So fighting off attachment to your post on social media, I would say that this is something that I sometimes struggle with. And what I try to do is I just tell myself that, Rafiat, you're dishing out valuable information to those people. If they don't take it, it's their business. Because really, sometimes when you're too attached to things, it puts you in a very uncomfortable situation. And if care is not taken, you may even be depressed. And you don't want that to happen to you, right? So what you want to do basically is to detach yourself from the post. So see it as you're sharing valuable information to the general public, right? And if they are not taking it, they are the ones on the loose end. They're losing out. That's just the way I say it. Because sometimes when I drop certain posts and I'm not getting the engagement that I envisage, I feel very bad. But at the same time, I tell myself, come on, it's just a post. Provided that you know that what you have shared is indeed very valuable. Trust me, there is somebody somewhere who is watching what you're doing. And because of what you're doing, that person is not giving up. Because of what you're doing, that person is getting better. And I also think that we need to, as much as possible, we need to try to yank off vanity metrics when it comes to social media. If you're a marketer or a communications officer, you wouldn't call them vanity metrics really, because they are part of your KPIs, right? So for those who may not know what KPIs, they're part of your key performance indicators, because your employers will ask you, what sort of engagement are we getting on social media? What are we doing this and stuff like that. But if that is not the case, it helps that you sometimes, or you most times, see humanity as one person. And I recall that I listened to Chimamanda at some point, and she mentioned that sometimes we underestimate the power of our work. This is not the way she said it, I'm just using my own words. But sometimes we underestimate the power of our work because we have taken, or we have attributed humanity to be 1 million person. No, humanity can be one person. So if it is because of you that that one person is getting an education, if it is because of you that one person is going to feed their family for that day, if it is because of you that one person is giving up bad habits, you have changed humanity because you have done enough. On the other side, you need to also begin to ask yourself, because I know how depressing it can be, or how sad it can be when you put out content, you expect people to engage and they're not engaging. So sometimes it could also be that you're not doing it the right way. And that is why, when I talked about the different types of communication skills, I looked at a number of those skills and they are all interwoven. So you cannot say, I want to learn how to write and I don't want to learn how to speak, or I want to learn how to empathize and I don't want to learn how to listen. No, it would affect each other. So you need to learn virtually everything, just a little of something in every, because sometimes people are not engaging with you because you're not engaging. Yeah. If you're not pushing out interesting stuff, if you're not pushing out what people want to see without necessarily losing your own voice, because sometimes we tend to listen to people too much that we lose our own voice. You don't want that to happen to you, right? So look at your content. Look at what others are doing that is giving them engagement. How can I marry, or how can I take some lessons, some key takeaways from what this person is doing, merge it to what I enjoy doing, right? And create a niche for myself. So that way you will get engagement. Because if you're educating people, if you're entertaining them, if you're informing them, there is no how they will not engage with you. So try as much as possible, try to detach yourself, first of all, because it is not healthy for you. Detach yourself for your, emotional well-being. And importantly, also learn. So constantly improve on yourself, polish your communication skills, and trust me, you would see your followers and engagements, you would see it boom. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Zainab. I trust that answered your question perfectly. So we just take the last question because we are pressed for time. So Angela asks, she says, please, what are bad communication skills? So that will be the last question and we bring the session to a close. Yes. What are bad